I think we're streaming again here. Let me just make sure it looks like it's working. I think it's working. Yep. Cool. So wait for the chat to work here and see who shows up and start building some stuff. I will wait a minute or two until some people arrive. I got my Stream Deck set up now, so I got my fancy little device where I can switch between scenes without having to go over to Ecamm, so I can just be talking to people, working on the screen, talking to people, working on the screen. That's kind of cool. Cool. All right, so we have some people. It sounds like things are working. So yeah, we can just get to it. Let me pause my copy of the video. I don't know how real streamers do this. If there's they probably watch the chat without having to like watch their own video, but I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah. Okay, I popped out the chat as a separate window. Maybe this will work. Someone type something to make sure that it's still working even though I paused it. I don't know how chat works. Okay, so I'll switch over to sharing my screen. I kind of just commented out everything that we did yesterday. You can see it here though. We kind of built this up. Let's yeah, whatever, we'll just leave it like this. How do I have this set up in Figma right now? At 50%. So we'll just do the same kind of thing we did yesterday where we kind of scaled the whole thing to 50%. So it's comparable with the Figma file. All right, so this time though, we're gonna work on this testimonial thing. So I think we're just gonna build it sort of separate for the purposes of the stream. So I've already pulled out like a separate component here that's currently rendering nothing, but we will just kind of rip through the Figma file and try and get some stuff in place. So let's shrink this down a little bit, get rid of that sidebar so we can go back and forth between them a little bit more easily. So we're going to have a div of some kind. It's always interesting thinking about how to structure these semantically. If you look at like, let me think, do we do this in Tailwind UI? We probably have like some feature sections that have this type of thing. The way that we ended up doing stuff here is the H2 is actually like the smaller headline, and then there's like a paragraph underneath it. So I think we can sort of use the same approach. That is sort of the hierarchy, even if this is sort of smaller. I'm using Ecamm Live to do the streaming. It's this this tool. It's like OBS, but for dummies and paid and stuff. Seems to work pretty well for me. Cool. So let's yeah, so we're gonna have like some sort of H2 for like what everyone is saying, and then we'll have like a P tag for trusted by professionals. And then there's like some sort of thing with all of the cards, you know. And then below that, there's like this other section where I think we can probably say join professionals who trust barely HR for hiring and onboarding new employees. So it's typo. Let's turn on word wrap here. And then below that, let's slap this link in another div. Get started with our RAR in there. Okay, so that's what we got so far. So that you know, isn't very much, but something to go on. All right, so let's just get some of the spacing and stuff figured out first. So this whole section has 128 pixels of padding on the top and bottom. So I think that's like, you know, whatever, PY 32, is that right? Yep. And then horizontally, it's going to be interesting thinking about how we want to do this with sort of the overflow and stuff, but I think it won't actually be too bad. We can actually, let's just assume that we're just going to have this 112 and we'll figure out how to make this overflow even with that padding baked in. I wish the stream was sponsored by Coke Zero. They get so much of my hard-earned dollars. Okay, that doesn't look like enough space at the top. I guess it is. I think just, okay. All right, so this, what everyone is saying is really small. So we're gonna go with text XS. The line height is 16, so that's gonna be over 4. The font is semi-bold. It's also SF mono, which will just be font mono. It's got some tracking. Do we have a 10% one? Yep. Okay. And it's gray 500. And then for this text, we've got 8 pixels of space between them. So that's MT2. This is going to be text. Oh, we don't have 64 pixels in Tailwind. So we'll either go with 60 or 72. Let's go with 60 for now. Tracking tighter, I think. Okay. Yeah, the text XS over 4 works in Tailwind 3. Okay. And then above the cards, we've got 64 and then 60. So that's going to be, I guess that's 16, right? And this will be whatever, 15? Is that a thing in Tailwind? No. So we'll just make it 64 for both. And then, oh, you know what we forgot is these, I forgot to put these buttons in. So let's wrap this in a div. Oops. And we'll have a previous, whatever, and next. And we'll figure that out with the actual icons and stuff. So this is 14 pixels. So that's going to be text SM over 6. Text gray 600. And then the link. So we've got 8 pixel gap and it's pink 600. So MT2, text pink 600, text SM over 6, font medium. And is there a specific gap here? Where's the actual? So Steve's using an icon for that. So maybe we'll grab the icon. He's using a 20 by 20. So that's probably a mini. Probably this guy. We can get rid of this. I don't know that we'll need the fill and clip rules either. But this will need to become inline flex. What did we say the gap was? 8. So a gap of 2. Oh, and needs to be centered. The ARIA stuff, I try to think about it as I'm going and include it when I can, but always definitely review after the fact as well to make sure that there's nothing obvious or important that's missing. So like in the case of this SVG, for example, I would mark this as ARIA hidden. It won't actually get read out or anything. Little trick is if you were going to use like this little HTML entity, I always end up wrapping that in a span with ARIA hidden on it, because otherwise screen readers will literally read out like get started right arrow, which is just not really useful to anyone. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So this is 384. So that's max with SM. So I think we can put that right on the paragraph. Okay, so that's going to wrap properly now. Let's get these buttons moved over. So we'll just make this a flex justify between. And how is this aligned? It looks like it's top aligned. So we don't really need to do anything there, actually. So let's build these buttons maybe quickly. Okay, so it's a size 12, I guess, rounded full, and it's got an outer stroke, so we'll call that a ring, and then we'll use our little raycast extension here to figure out what color this is. Gray 950 at 10%. And yeah, something there. And we'll grab these Heroicons chevrons. Which size are these? So these are going to be the mini ones also. So this guy, let's do like ARIA label equals previous testimonial or something. I don't know if that's really the perfect title for it. It's something we'll have to think about. Let's delete these clip rules. There's only one path. I'm pretty sure that doesn't matter when there's no other paths. Okay. And that needs to be centered in here. So we can make this like inline flex, item center, justify center. And what did we say the color of that was? That's gray 950. So let's just get rid of this fill and just do fill gray 950. And yeah, that's pretty close. And I think there's also a shadow on it. Shadow SM. If I remember right. So we'll throw that guy on there. We'll just zoom in there and take a peek. Let's just make sure if I can't really see it, so yeah, it's there. Subtle. Oop. All right, so for now, we'll just duplicate this. Probably make it a component eventually. And grab the right chevron. I'm just going to grab the path and replace this path. Save and delete these attributes. Okay, so now we've got a gap of 16 between these. Let's make sure this is a flex container with a gap of 4. All right, so we got to capitalize this text too, actually. Just notice that. Uppercase. All right, so we've got the easy parts done. For screen reader support, usually I test with VoiceOver because it's on my Mac and easy. You probably should test with multiple different tools, but that'll catch, you know, a lot of stuff for sure. It's very, it's a lot to know with that stuff, and I'm definitely not an expert, just figuring it out as I go and trying to do the best that I can. So, all right, so the next thing is these cards. I've got these images here that we used. I'm going to try and just export these quickly, probably at 2x, and we'll export them as JPEGs. And yeah, I'm just going to do that over on this other screen here for a tick, since it's probably going to show my Finder window, and God knows what horrible things are in there. No, not actually, but you never know. Could be something sensitive that I'm not thinking of. Okay, so give me 2 seconds while I dump this. I'm just going to throw these in the public folder for simplicity. Okay. So what did we actually get when I did that? Okay, so these are just rectangle, whatever. So let's just rename these quickly. We'll do like testimonial 1, testimonial 2, testimonial 3, testimonial 4. Okay. All right, so let's just start with a single card. All right, yeah, I used gap instead of SpaceX because SpaceX is like not a real CSS thing. It's like a hack that we did to solve the same problem before gap actually existed for Flexbox. But now that it exists for Flexbox, I generally use gap. The only time I would use SpaceX now is if I needed a negative value, because you can't do negative gap. But a good example of that is like this sort of thing where you want to have some things like squished together and overlapping. I would use negative SpaceX for that. And otherwise I would use gap. I still use space Y often because you can't use gap on block elements, although I might be remembering that that might be something that is coming. I can't remember. But for things that are spaced out vertically, I'll usually still use space Y because I don't want to have to make the container like a flex in the column direction if the only reason I need to do that is for the gap. So yeah. Okay, so let's maybe make like a little testimonial card component here. And we'll figure out the API for it probably later on, but let's just drop one in. Okay, so we got a card, and we'll just build this first one sort of hard-coded in here for now, I think. Cool. So we'll just start with making it a div. And let's think about the structure of this. So it's going to have like an image. It's going to have this section of text. The image is going to need to be in the background, but I think we'll use a real image tag for it. I don't know if you noticed, but the images are not the full height. They are only this tall. And you could make them the full height, but in this particular case, some of the images we chose actually don't have like enough content below them to fill up the whole space. So Steve just made them all square under the hood here. So we'll probably position those absolutely to the top. So it doesn't really matter. But the way the gradient works, I think that's here. Yeah, so the gradient is only applied to this square also. And then it's like a solid color. at the bottom. So there's a few different ways we could do it, but I'm kind of thinking we're going to have a div here that's going to have like the image plus gradient overlay. And then I think we can probably put the testimonial content here. Then there's like some horizontal rule. That could be like a border, but whatever. I'm just going to make it an element just so we know what we're doing. And then like a couple p tags for the other stuff. Maybe this could be like, I guess it should probably be like a block quote in here somewhere. So we'll just think about that. When you're trying to do these like fancy things, sometimes it's hard to know which element should be what. I refer to like Tailwind UI a lot because we really like researched a lot of these things before we did them. So I'll look at something like this, for example, and just try to see like where did we use the block quote. Okay, so we did the block quote here. We had a figure that wrapped up everything but didn't include the image, and the fig caption is where we put the other stuff. So maybe that's the move, use that type of markup. So maybe we'll do like a block quote here. I was considering wrapping all this stuff in something anyways, or sorry, not just a block quote, but a figure. You could maybe consider putting the image in the figure too, but I think we'll just stick with this. And fig caption goes inside the figure, right? Yep. Fig caption. Okay, and then probably we will just handle this with a border. Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Okay, so we've got some smart quotes. Thanks to Barely HR, we're now finding new candidates that we never would have found with our previous methods. I never remember what the keyboard shortcuts are for these things. Yeah, good point on the grid stuff to sort of like stack things on top of each other. I will keep that in mind as we're trying to actually style it, and maybe that will be a good way to go. And we could at least do it for just this one thing. But yeah, well, let's play with that and we'll see how it turns out and figure out how to just do it in the simplest way possible. That's a good tip. I kind of forgot about that. I think I saw Wes Boss tweet about that like months ago. I'm so used to just like the absolute inset zero trick for stacking things on top of each other. I have never done it with just placing two items in the same grid cell before. So let's try it and see how it compares. Okay, so let's slap the image in here. So this is going to just be like / testimonial1.jpg and see what we have. Okay. The code for the Catalyst demo website is included now. It wasn't when we first released it, but we just added it like end of last week, I think. Okay, so I guess the first thing is maybe even just getting this card sized right. So I was looking at this earlier, trying to sort of debate the best way to do this. These do just have fixed dimensions of like 384 by 512. So one way to do this would be to think of it as like an aspect ratio thing, but I'm kind of inclined to just literally put in these dimensions, honestly. So let's try whatever that's like width SM. And now 512, or actually, is there another way to do that? Is 96 the same? 96, yeah. And height I think it'd be like 128, but I don't think we actually have that, annoyingly. So what is that? So 128 divided by 4, 32 rem. So we'll just arbitrary value it for now, but maybe we should increase this scale in Tailwind. Okay, so let's just see. Does that give us some dimensions? It does. No, aspect ratio is fine, I think. I've never really noticed a performance issue. In this case, it's like, what was it, 384 to 512. So it's like a 3 to 4 aspect ratio. Is that right? Maybe we could do that. So if we do width 96, then we do aspect. Is this the right way or is it reversed? Yeah, I mean, that actually works and gives us the right dimensions, I think. Yeah, so let's just roll with that. Work around the fact that Tailwind's missing a thing. So then I think we want to give this like a blackish background. So gray 950, let's just do that on the whole card. And then for the spot not covered by the image, we should see that already now. And then to get this, yeah, let's think here. So normally I would just do like flex call, and justify end to get this text to be like placed at the bottom. And then again, this is just how I would think to do this off the top of my head, but we might want to do like the grid trick for this. We'll see. But I would do this to sort of get that in the right spot. And yeah, we could do like grid aspect square, and then we could do like H full, W full. Is our size full? Yeah. Okay. And then for the gradient, I think we'll probably just make like a extra element for that. So that'll be, what is it? It's from black, or no, it's from gray 950. So we'll just do like a BG gradient to top from gray 950. And I think we need to also, yeah, hold on, grid calls 1, grid rows 1. This is where I don't know if this is going to benefit us really, because we're going to have to do like call start 1, row start 1. Maybe someone could tell me if this could be simplified after we just get it working. Okay, so that's like correct. I don't think the gradient could be on the div containing the image, because then it won't be in front. Unfortunately. So this is using that grid trick to stack those on top of each other. Like the way I might have done this in the past is just like absolute inset 0, and then absolute inset 0 here, and then you don't actually need like display grid or that stuff. So it's a bit less code, but if there's a good reason to do it the other way and someone knows, just let me know. Okay. Gradient on the div containing the image on the figure then to match the text position. Well, the gradient is on this square, right? That sits at the top. It's in the exact same spot as the image and only covers the bottom of the image to whatever. Mask image linear gradient on the image itself. Cool. We could try that. I've literally never used mask image in my life. So let's learn it. So you're thinking I could basically do something like this. And then just like replace a bunch of these with spaces. Okay, let's see what that looks like. And then comment this out. Why does that look different? So you can see oh no, they look the same. Cool. Yeah, that's kind of neat. It's a little bit ugly because of the arbitrary property, but it does mean we can probably do this then, right? We need an object, probably cover or something, just in case the image wasn't a square image. And then I think, yeah. Oh, black. Yeah, so that is a bit annoying. How could we, I guess I can use the variable. What am I, an idiot? Color gray 950. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That's kind of simple. I wonder if there would be a nice Tailwind API for this. Like maybe we could add utilities. So like just today we added an alias for the BG gradient 2T stuff called like BG linear 2T, because I think we want to add like radial and conic gradient support. Oh. Okay, so this color, so this is just masking it. So you're telling me if I make this black and then I change the background of this like red, that I'm going to see red coming through. Oh yeah. Neat. Nice. Probably don't even need this underscore then, right? Cool. Very cool. That's cool. Yeah, anyways, I wonder if we could add like an API like mask linear, you know? And then we could do like mask from, you know, mask via mask to, kind of like we do for the other stuff. It's so funny. Like I don't build sites with Tailwind super frequently anymore because I work so much on the tooling or work so much on the company and stuff like that. But every time like I build something with Tailwind for like 15 minutes, I find like some interesting way to improve it, you know? So it's nice to do this for sure. So that's cool. I like this. This is simpler. So let's get the colors and stuff going for this stuff. So this is, this is a Figma thing too, right? Where does CSS have this where you can like position the quotes outside? Quotes outside. If someone knows, just tell me. I don't have the attention span to read. But it'd be cool if there was a CSS property that let you position the quotes outside of the actual quote. Negative text indent. That feels like it's going to be tricky to like get it perfect though. We could do it before, but again, like we're going to have to be very finicky with like the width of the element, right? Or maybe not. Maybe there's a way to, well, we can play with it. Okay, let's just get the general stuff in there. Yeah, I'll put this on the p tag. Text white, and what was the other stuff here? 20 pixels over 28, so that's XL over 7. And there's some padding on this thing, of course. 40 pixels. So we'll just do like 40 around the whole thing, I think. So P10. Okay. Yeah, we'll do the quote things. We'll make the quotes good. Hanging punctuation, yes. Okay, I knew there was a CSS property for this. But yeah, that's not going to work, I guess. Okay, so we've got a border. Should this be a top border on the caption? I kind of think this should be a top border on the caption. Some of the ways that I like to think about this stuff is like, it's not always intuitive, or there's not always a good answer, but I almost think like if I were to delete like one of these elements, which one would I delete? And I would expect the border to like go away at the same time. In this case, if you deleted this, I think like it would seem weird that the border was there still too, but it seems like more weird to me that I would delete this text and that bottom border would stick around, which is kind of just like clue to my brain that this border sort of belongs to the caption. So I'm going to put that as a top border on there, and I guess we'll stick like a margin here. So this is going to be like an MT6 border T. And the border looks like it's white 20%. Okay. Am I crazy, or does it seem like this text is being impacted by the mask? Does this look like semi-transparent? I might be going insane. I don't know. Let's do a little color test here. Yeah, like that's not white. This probably needs to be like absolute or relative. There we go. That was a subtle one. Did that have a font weight on it? Anything explicit? No. Oh, mouse is going crazy. The VS Code theme, eh? Yeah, maybe we will finish it and release it. We started working on it years ago, and we finished it good enough for JavaScript, but never finished it for like other languages. So it just never got done. But I do have like syntax theme, or how do you theme, color theme? Yeah, I've got like Tailwind dark. I've got like dark high contrast. I've got like the light one, and then like the light one with increased contrast too. So, yeah, they do exist. One day, maybe I'll polish them up and release them. Okay, so this is text SM over 6, font medium, text white, and then we've got a gradient one down here. So that'll be, I'm going to try and remember how to do this without looking at our own docs. So that's going to be text SM over 6 again, font medium also. And then we do like BG clip text, and then like text transparent, and then BG gradient 2R. And what are our colors here? I think like these are the same things that Steve used in the hero. He told me that he just copied the gradient from the hero with the angle and everything, but that I should just do this as like a horizontal gradient. So when I do this in the easier way that I'm about to do it in, understand that I was given permission. What am I doing? So this is the horrible gradient. We'll start with these values, but we might be able to simplify some stuff. I'm lost. The big font size makes it hard to know where you're at sometimes. Okay, so we'll get rid of this one. The gradient could go in the config file. I mean, even these colors and stuff, we'll have to figure out what to do with it. But I don't know if this gradient is going to be like perfectly reused or not. Because now that it's rotated, well, it's not rotated now, but now that we unrotated it, maybe the values for the stop positions shouldn't quite be the same. But let's see. Like, so Steve, visually, it's like starting to turn pink, like in the word resources. A little bit earlier than this one, but I think it's actually okay. I'll fine tune it with Steve. Okay, so let's where's this border coming from? Oh, that was like a weird zoom artifact. Okay, so we do need to add a border radius of 24 to this whole thing. So that's this one. And this looks like it has a stroke on it somewhere. So it's an inset ring. I think this is gray 950 again. Yeah, gray 950 at 10%. So we'll go inset ring, gray 950 over 10. This is Tailwind 4 API, by the way. That won't exist in v3, but, and it's kind of not working. You know why? I know why. This needs to be on another element. It can probably be an after pseudo element. After absolute, after inset 0, after inset ring, after, then after rounded 3XL. Let's see. Okay, and then we also need overflow hidden on this thing. And is that right? Oh man, what the fuck is going on with that corner? Why? I don't know if you guys can see this, but this corner is kind of rendering a little glitchy. And it's more obvious, honestly, when you're zoomed out. Is there something obvious I did? I don't think it's the inset 0. Yeah, I'll try rounding the image just in case. Rounded T 3XL. Oh man, that made it worse. Well, I think, why is that so gruesome? Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, it's something like the browser not really recognizing that these are supposed to be linked, and I don't think it's a error in the code. It's just an unfortunate rendering artifact from trying to make two elements look the same that are rendered sort of independently, and the browser doesn't like it. Yeah, I did round the image, and it's still, that's true. It could be a 50% artifact. Let's see it at 100. Oh no, it's still friggin' there. Okay, so let's delete this for a second. So see how it actually gets better when I don't round the image? That's kind of weird, right? Both of these have the same. Yeah. Let's just make it like lime 300 for a second. Like you can still see there's like a corner poking out there. It's almost as if the border radius isn't the same, but it definitely is. So there's one other way that we could do this. Let's just see if it works out of curiosity. I don't love it though, because the browser's poor, but we could just do like outline, negative outline offset 1. Is that there even without the, okay, so that glitch is there no matter what. Did that happen when I added overflow hidden? Yeah. Okay. It's still messed up even. Okay, so so the problem is this background is like poking through, right? So if we just don't put that background there, then I think like we're okay. It's really silly though that that's happening. So the only way that I can think to make this work is to give this like a background and then remove the background here. And I guess that even that's not going to work. And then drag these guys back up here. Oh wait, what am I doing? No, that would have worked. The problem is we need to put the padding on this thing. And then get rid of the padding here. And then we just got to implement this mask. Well, we can't really use a mask now. We have to like layer a gradient on top. So we're, unless anyone has a better idea, but the first idea that comes to mind for me is to basically do the same thing that we do for the image and implement it with a regular gradient and get rid of this mask. That should be cleaner. And tricky problem because now this is overlapping that. So it's actually like, holy shit, what an annoying thing. We need like the background. There's got to be a simpler way to do this than the way I'm thinking in my head, which is like another element that's positioned sort of absolutely to simulate the background. But basically what's happening right now is this gradient is being covered up by this element. And we actually need this text to sort of be on top of the gradient. So that's why like the masked approach worked so well from just a mental model perspective, but because of that stupid fucking corner glitch, we can't use it. So I'm just trying to think, like, if we don't have a background color here, you can sort of see what's happening. So that is what we want, but now we kind of want there to just be like a black box that's like just here. Yeah, like we could do this. Yeah. Oh, Hugo's suggestion, I think if I'm understanding right, is basically to do like, are you thinking like a div here that's got like a background of gray 950 and we explicitly like position it so it's like down by an amount equal to like the border radius? You know what might even work? Let's just try. No, that brings back the corner glitch. What if we don't round it? Still there. Yeah, but we basically want to... Yeah, so if we do inset 0 top, whatever it is, 24 top 6, you know, so fucking bad. But basically you can see like we've got this box now that goes up all the way to the top and stops right before it starts to round to avoid the corner glitch. Adjust the stops on the gradients so the face. Well, going on the design, Steve actually did just have the gradient as like a straight up, 0 to 100 gradient spread across the entire thing. So we could adjust it, but even if we did, I'm not sure that that would fix the corner thing. The corner thing just seems to be just a side effect of layering an image on top of something with a colored background. So stupid. I hate this solution. There seriously isn't like another way to do this, eh? Let's think. I mean, yeah, there probably isn't. The other way to do it that I would have done in the past is make this element not square. Just make this like inset 0. Maybe this is the move, honestly. Okay, so if we, what did we say this ratio was? So what's the distance here? That's 128 out of 512. So that's like 25%. So can we just do like from 25%? Okay. So that is going to make sure that the bottom quarter is always solid black. And then, so now we've implemented it differently than Figma file. Instead of a gradient that's only covering up this square and then a solid color here, we've re-implemented it as like a full height gradient that doesn't start transitioning until 25%. And because we're using fixed dimensions for things, like that is okay. But it's kind of a strange, I don't know, it's not easy to understand why this number works. Like it works because of this aspect ratio and because of the fact that this square that takes up the full width then becomes 3/4 of the height. So the bottom quarter is where we want to do that from. So anyways, that works. I think that's probably the least amount of code to do this. So now if we wanted to do the inset ring, we could actually reuse this element for that conveniently. So we could say inset ring gray 950 over 10. And then we just need to throw like a rounded 3XL on this and fucking pray that this like doesn't introduce some other weird corner glitch. Okay. So that becomes like the sort of overlay that makes everything work. So I think that's about as good as that's going to get. We got some spacing issues by this stuff. 24, so we need a PT 24 on something. PT 6, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So we've got one done. Oh, and then we wanted to figure out this quote thing, right? So do we want to try and do that with like pseudo elements? So we could say like before content, put this guy in there. First, let's just see if that even like does anything remotely right. Did that even like remotely work? No. Oh, I don't even know how to use Tailwind is the big problem here. Okay. And we want to say before absolute and then before right full, I think was the trick that someone suggested. Fuck. No, eh? Wow, that moved it by a lot. Where's that value of? Oh. Yeah, okay. So let's try like we could do like one character or whatever. No, eh? We could do negative left one character. No, eh? What am I doing? Okay, right 0. Where does that go? Over there. Left 0. Oh, you know why? Because this needs to be relative. Okay. Negative left, one character. So that like is fine, I think. But it's not going to be like the exact same position that it would be if it was here. Like, see how that actually ended up a little bit closer to the T than it did when we do it this way? Because 1CH is like the width of the 0 character in the font. Negative translate X full. That might work actually. Oh yeah, smart. Let's do that. Okay, and then we can do the same thing with the after one. Oops. And this one will be positive translate X full, sort of. No. Actually, this one just doesn't even need to move. I don't think. Yeah, cool. All right. Doesn't matter if no one will notice the difference. We will know. Okay. So, it's ugly, but it works. Okay, so why don't we just try and get these laid out? I don't know how far or much further we're gonna get. How long have I been streaming for? Like, let me check something here. Can I even know? Like, have we been streaming for like an hour? Something like that? Yeah, after absolute. Yeah, you're right. It probably isn't actually even required, is it? No. All right. Cool. It would only be required if this, like, let's see if we can, like, so now if I did after absolute, I think it wouldn't cause it to wrap. I guess I'm wrong. Is that poking out? Yeah, so I think it's probably still good to have it there because it's we do want it to have the freedom to extend past the bounding box. But yeah. All right. Let's get a bunch of these guys in there and figure out this like overflow thing. Okay, so let's just do whatever, 4 of these things. Flex. I think there's some sort of gap here. 32, so that's like 8. Is that right? Arithmetic. Oh, what the hell? Oh, yep. Okay. The overflow, I think, is the problem, right? Because now they're the right height, but now they are not. Yeah, this is the fun part. Okay. I'm going to think for a minute here about how we even want to do this. Yep, shrink 0. You're right. I was about to say it's something to do with that. Okay. So now we've got some overflow. So that's progress. Just for my own sanity, I'm just going to make these a little bit componentized. Testimonial. IMG. All right, so we got some of that in there. And maybe we'll even like throw these quotes in there as like children. There's a million ways you could design this API. I'm not really thinking about it too hard. All right, children. And what is that again? It's like React node or something. Is that right? And okay. Does that look the same? Is that how different? This one wraps, but it doesn't wrap here. I'm just going to change the text for that one so that it fits on 3 lines. There we go. And then the actual testimonial, we can just do like name and title or something. And then fix all that crap. So we've got title VP of Human Resources at Protocol. And let's just get that all working and then update those. Yep, okay. Spell human wrong. Capital human with a capital U. And then I fixed the wrong one. Amy Chase. There's two heads of marketing at TaxPal. We're going to say head of people operations at, what's one of the other fake Tailwind UI template companies? That's where Steve's getting these names from. Pocket. And whatever. Another one is like a company we used for this template. There's like a, what was it called? Planetaria or something. Let me see. Yeah. I think I even bought a domain for that. Yeah, planetaria.tech. Is it Planetaria? Oh yeah, it rickrolls you. All right. Planetaria. What was a COO or something? Okay, cool. So yeah, this could get time consuming. I'm trying to think what we actually want to do here. Let's start by throwing like an overflow hidden on this guy. Okay, so now we don't have like the page stuff happening. And I guess from like behavior perspective, we just kind of have to decide how we want this to work. Do we want this to be something you can like scroll with scroll snap? Or do we want it to be something that you can only do with these buttons? Or do you want to be able to like click it and drag it around? Yeah, a lot of different ways you could do it. And there's some details too that I'm not even sure how to do. Like Steve wants to do this thing where the card, if a card is not fully within the viewport, that it has like an opacity of 50%. I think we could do that with like intersection observer, but I wouldn't want it to happen for if it's vertically partially on screen. Can you, let's see, intersection. What the hell does this do again? Does anyone know off the top of their head if it's easy to detect if something is in the viewport in a certain dimension? Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like it's boring streaming content for me to sit here trying to like read all this docs and understand it. Could ask ChatGPT. I haven't built anything with this in a long time. I think the last time I wrote code with Intersection Observer myself would have probably been like 2018, maybe. I don't know. So, I don't know. Just if you have a really big top and bottom root margin on your observer, it would work. Now, the thing I'm trying to achieve is basically I want any element that's not fully on screen to have like an opacity of 50. And then once it's fully on screen, I want it to have an opacity of 100%. But I want it to have an opacity of 100% even if it's partially off screen vertically, but fully in screen horizontally. So I'm not sure the best way to do that. And I think it's actually going to be even more complicated than that, because this design is ultimately going to have some sort of constrained width. And I kind of think what we actually want is anything that's outside of this area. So is that really the answer? 4,000 pixels? I wonder, is that just arbitrary? Is that just like a lot? How do you pick the value of 4,000 that is like correct? Is there an amount that like makes sense? Like, is it like 2 times the height of the element or something like that? I don't even know like where to even start with this anyways. Like, what is it called? Root margin? Margin around the root can have values similar to CSS margin property. Values can be percentages. Anyways, I don't know. I'm not going to get that far with that on my own, I think. I think that'd be more productive if I pair on that with someone. So I'm trying to think what we could do. Like, even if we just wanted to make it possible to like horizontally scroll this container, there's a couple things we would need to do to make that work without this getting cropped, I think. So we could try to solve that. Let's see if we can do it. So I'm just gonna like add a wrapper here. And we'll move the px28 to this. And then we'll do the same thing for this one down here. And I think if we go, what does this do for us? Okay, so yeah, that's actually pretty easy to get that going. Too easy. Okay, maybe we should try the intersection observer shit. You're about to watch me really struggle with programming. Okay, so this, I guess I need to make this a client component because we're going to be using client stuff. So I think the idea is that cannot find name div. Thanks, TypeScript. Okay, so let's find like a basic example of this. So I don't even understand like what these parameters are. So the root isn't that that's optional, right? So how do you specify like the actual element? Or do you apply the observer to something? Okay. Okay, let's just like do this for a second, I guess. And do you have to like tear down intersection observers? I'm guessing you should. Okay, let's see. Did that come back from like the function that set it up? Like, where does that even come from? This is the worst code sample I've ever seen in my life. This like implies there's like a global disconnect method that just like fixes all your intersection observers. Div with a gradient positioned at the end of the container to mask the items. Yeah, maybe that's another way to do it. Let's just think about like, the problem is I think Steve doesn't want the element to be like partially faded. I'd have to ask him. In my head, the way that I interpret the design is he wants elements to like be fully 50% or fully 100%. But yeah, thinking if we could just do it with CSS somehow, it'd be kind of nice. I just worry that if we have like a gradient that starts like here, then this element is going to be like partially chopped off. Let's just do the intersection observer thing because it's like something to learn, you know? Okay, so we need one of these guys, I think, right? And I don't think we need a root. And we're saying, what was their values? It was like 4,000, 0, 4,000, 0. So whatever, we'll just do that. And threshold, whatever, we'll just make that 1. And we need to basically return a cleanup function. And let's see, how does this callback stuff work? Dude, this code stuff is just so scattered. Like, isn't it kind of strange that this function would get passed in like in the docs, but like never even used until, or explained until way down here? Anyways, I think we also need like a ref, right? And that's probably going to be this guy. And what was it? Attach or something? Or observe? observer.observe ref.current. Whatever. Fuck you, TypeScript. It'll work. And then the callback takes entries and observer. Whatever, let's just log this. So we have 4 of them. Is visible false is intersecting true. Is visible false? So wouldn't you think this one would have counted as like, is, the root as the scrollable container. Okay, so are we thinking then we need like another ref? And then we'll do like ref, and then this needs to be like container or something. And I'm just not going to worry about the TypeScript stuff. I don't know if we have to do .current or what. Can I read properties of undefined reading current? Is visible false? They're all still like is visible false. I think this is going to be like really painful if I try and just figure this out on the pressure of a live stream. What if I pass it through as current there? Does that make any difference? Yeah, like there's nothing different about the 4th one currently. So, yeah, I don't know. This is going to be, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with this on the stream. So I think I'm probably going to wrap it up, but I'm glad that we got as far as we did with this stuff. I got to figure out how we even want this to behave and stuff anyways. And maybe if I can get this kind of working tomorrow morning, maybe I'll hack on it with someone else. Maybe I'll revisit it on a stream tomorrow and just kind of walk through how we approached it. So sorry for the anticlimactic finish here, but I will get this figured out, and I'll share kind of whatever solution I come up with for it. But anyways, it was still pretty fun. Glad that we got this banged out. Lots of little interesting snafus and stuff to deal with, like that stupid corner thing that stumped us for so long. But I think the solution that we came up with there was ultimately pretty solid. I'm looking forward to playing around with that mask image stuff a bit more. I thought coming up with a Tailwind API for that was sort of a fun sort of bit of output from the stream too. So yeah, anyways, we'll do another one of these probably tomorrow afternoon. I don't see why not. It's fun to do. I got to work on this stuff anyways. Might as well work on it on the stream. Maybe I'll try and figure out how to get like a pair programming thing actually going, so I can do some live streaming with someone else on the stream, and we can actually do it together. That'd be kind of fun if I can figure out how to get that to work. So we'll see. Anyways, thanks for checking out the stream, and I'll catch you at the next one. All right. Now to find the finish button.